And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, in just a few minutes, Jay Sekulow, Sarah Carter, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Monica Crowley, Bill Bennett will all join us. But first, from the very moment that President Trump put his hand on the Bible and swore an oath to protect and defend this great country, the alt-radical left Destroy Trump media, they have been working overtime to push their partisan agenda and destroy President Trump's presidency. Now, the big question tonight: why did the Obama administration unmask members of the Trump transition team and maybe even the president-elect and candidate Trump himself? And why did they weaponize and politicize the use of raw intelligence? That is tonight's opening monologue. All right, this is now becoming a scandal of historic and monumental proportions. Now, the latest chapter of the partisan press unfolded on March the 4th following this tweet from President Trump. Quote, "Terrible. Just found out that Obama had wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory. Nothing found. This is McCarthyism." Now, that tweet sent the mainstream alt-left hate Trump media into an all-out frenzy. And for the next several days, instead of investigating the president's serious claim, well, they collectively mocked, they ridiculed, they bashed the president. Watch them in all their, well, horrible coverage.
Our conspiracy theory president is at it again, and whenever something like this happens, I wonder, what are the president's sources of information? Where is he getting these ideas?
The President of the United States is accusing the former president of wiretapping him.
I think that this is, again, something that if this happened, Martha,
If.
We know the President of the United States has no facts to back up his startling allegation that the former President of the United States, President Obama, wiretapped him at Trump Tower during the campaign.
Here's a man who spent years of his life trying to convince America this guy is illegitimate, he is ill-informed, he's ill-conceived, and he tried to retroactively abort him from the womb of democracy.
Why do supporters make excuses for him?
Well, because they're complicit in it, because he's not the product of himself. If we're sticking to horror, Frankenstein is the name of the doctor, not the monster.
He's got virtually no support on Capitol Hill on this statement, Jake.
It's amazing to watch the White House continue to argue that the earth is flat.
Well, it turns out the Destroy Trump media, they had no facts. When the partisan press, when they got bored scolding President Trump over his tweet, well, they went right back to the same old tired conspiracy. 8 months now, Trump colluded with the Russians to win the election. A baseless claim that the mainstream media has been out there with all these months without one single shred of evidence, not one. Watch this.
I'll say it again. This Russian connection just keeps building, and every time it builds and expands, you have to wonder if Trump himself isn't worried about what's swirling around under the covers.
CNN has learned new details of the FBI investigation into potential links between individuals associated with the Trump campaign and the Russian government.
Specifically, Willie, I think what it means is that a federal judge found that people in Trump's organization were colluding with the Russians.
Was there somebody inside the Trump campaign who was working with them, and did the president know about that? And were they successful?
8 months later, all innuendo, zero facts. Then on March 22nd, the House Intel Committee Chairman, Devin Nunes, he announced that he had credible evidence that President Trump and members of his transition team had been caught up in, quote, incidental surveillance where their names were, in fact, also unmasked. Now, Nunes also revealed this intel was shared among high-level Obama administration officials. So do you think the media went out and investigated that serious claim? Do you think they fairly reported these shocking new revelations? Of course not. They didn't. And as you could probably guess, the media reacted by besmirching and smearing and character assassination against Congressman Nunes. Watch this.
Who decided that Devin Nunes was qualified to be the House Intel chair? Because from everybody that I've spoken to who have worked with him, Republicans, Democrats, like, they say he is not up to that task.
As someone who is trying to lead a nonpartisan investigation, it made him look like a shill for the White House.
The chairman of your committee sneaks down there in the evening. He says weekly he goes down there, comes out, and then goes back down there the next morning with a report that he got from the White House. Does that sound like a masquerade to you?
Pretty unbelievable. And while the alt-left, Destroy Trump, propaganda media was busy smearing anyone and everyone who didn't echo their biased agenda, well, we did have real journalists from the Fox News channel right here, Circa News, Bloomberg, who were actually doing their jobs. And they reported that Susan Rice called for the unmasking of members of the Trump transition team. And yesterday, Susan Rice didn't even deny it. But watch out, Don Lemon, Van Jones, the Clinton News Network, they want you to think these developments are all just a big distraction. They're back to the conspiracy. Take a look.
You think that this is a diversion from this Russia story? Because so far, we see no evidence that she's done anything improper, and it seems like an effort to tar and feather her to try to make a lie the truth, the original tweet by the president.
This is much ado about Nathan. I mean, not even nothing. You got to go hood and say much ado about absolutely Nathan.
Nothing.
Listen, Susan Rice is being tarred, feathered, and burned alive for doing her job in a good way.
Unmasking Americans, political opponents, a transition team, that's not her job. And then over there at MSNBC, remember Chris threw up his own leg, Matthews and others? Well, they took the low road and once again accused Republicans of being racist and sexist for targeting Susan Rice. This is insanity we're watching. Look.
They're looking for a piñata.
Yeah.
They found one in Susan Rice. I do think
Notice it's always a female.
Just well, that's also true. Yeah. No, that's also true.
Basically, they're defaming her without any reason to do so. Because she's a woman, maybe because she's a black woman, maybe because they didn't like her during Benghazi.
You don't like the facts, just claim racism and sexism. Now, President Trump, he's not letting the media define this narrative. And earlier today, he said, quote, "It's such an important story for our country and the world. It's one of the big stories of our time." So here's the challenge. Will the partisan destroy press media treat the story with the importance it deserves? Will they continue to weaponize and politicize national intelligence, reveal the names of innocent Americans when there is no warrant to spy on them? Will they ever get to the bottom of who released and classified information and intel about Michael Flynn? Will the media, how's this, will they ever apologize for ridiculing President Trump over his surveillance claims now that he is proven right? My message is clear. ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, all of their friends at the national print media, the New York Times, Washington Post, it's time to realize that your level of partisanship and hatred for the president has now gotten in the way and totally clouded your judgment in what is now one of the biggest scandals in American history. Now, maybe you do something right for once. Maybe admit your bias. Maybe apologize to the American people. Maybe apologize to the president because your veil of unbiased journalism is a sham. Don't hold your breath. I'm not expecting the apologies or the corrections. Joining us now from the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow. From Circa News, Sarah Carter. Sarah, anything that I said wrong here?
No, I mean, I think it's devastating, Sean. As a journalist, I mean, my job is to be a watchdog and to investigate and to be a watchdog on the government and on agencies and on the, you know, with regard to the military, with regard to the Justice Department. And it's also to be a voice for the voiceless. It's not to be partisan. And what we've seen here with our investigations should raise alarm and it should continue. We should continue these investigations. It's not fair to the American people when they are not being served by the media. We're supposed to be the fourth estate. We're supposed to be part of those checks and balances. And when we don't do that, we fail our own system and we fail the American people.
Jay, 2 weeks ago, we know that Susan Rice, I don't know anything about this, but then she admitted to the unmasking. Why, can you think of any circumstances why Susan Rice, National Security Advisor, would need to unmask a Trump transition team member or candidate or part of the candidacy team of Donald Trump?
Well, the reason is politics. I mean, whatever she says, you know, her denials fall flat, number one. I mean, who's going to believe Susan Rice? I said yesterday she's the liar in chief here. I mean, so if you look at just the facts that we know, and we know about she's acknowledged now the unmasking, that she was the principal that authorized and asked for the unmasking. You ask yourself, the timing of this is not just bizarre, it's the real evidence. So this was, other than politics, what could this possibly be? Because between then and now, nothing has happened. No information's gotten out or that any other intelligence agency has said that there's been any collusion between the Trump campaign officials, and the Russians. And in fact, to the contrary. So the president was right. He used the phrase, and he undersold it. He said, you know, wiretaps, which is kind of the vernacular of surveillance. It was much more than wiretaps, evidently. It was electronic surveillance. And, Sean, I just want to call it what it is. They were spying on him and his incoming administration. That's what it appears to be. And the media ignoring this as if it does not exist or dismissing it because there's nothing that Susan Rice could possibly have done that's wrong. She would not pass the character witness test if you were putting her up in a trial. I mean, you just would bring out the parade of horribles for her.
She lied 2 weeks ago, and we got it on tape. And she totally contradicted herself yesterday. By the way, just like she lied on 5 Sunday shows when she said a spontaneous demonstration where the demonstrators just happened to have mortars and RPGs in their back pocket at the time, so they decided to take them out just because they felt like it. But she only admits to the unmasking. Sarah, she doesn't admit to leaking the intelligence. That is directly related to your reporting because since 2011, they relaxed the rules as it relates to unmasking. So really, it made it easier to spy and look at the names of those people that were picked up through incidental intelligence that we don't have warrants on. Right or wrong?
And this is right. And this is why it is so important as a journalist that I continue to investigate this. And this is why it's so important that other news agencies continue and begin to investigate this. Because one of the things we have to figure out was our intelligence weaponized? Was this part of a political espionage? And you know, Sean, she may not get charged with anything. And that's absolutely true because the rules were so relaxed. And people have to understand this. The rules were so relaxed that all she had to do was make that request to the NSA and say, due to national security matters, I need to see this information. And that was handed to her.
We'll pick it up with you, Jay, when we get back. More with Sarah and Jay right after the break. We're going to continue this investigation. We'll do the job the mainstream media will not do, which is really sad, and also later tonight.
Well, you know, it certainly is a theory in search of a villain, and for whatever reason, the hard right has always chosen Susan Rice to be their villain.
Wow, pathetically, Congressman Adam Schiff defending Susan Rice, saying Republicans have always painted her as, quote, a villain. Well, now, should Schiff recuse himself from the Russia investigation? Up next, we'll get reaction from Monica Crowley, Bill Bennett, and also later tonight, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. He'll weigh in on the bombshell report that Susan Rice, in fact, was behind the unmasking of Trump officials. We'll do their job right here on Hannity. And welcome back to Hannity as we continue to ask the questions the mainstream media will not ask. Did President Obama, members of his administration, knowingly surveil President Trump and members of his transition team and incoming opposition party? We continue with Jay Sekulow and Sarah Carter. All right, Jay, we were left off with you. The answer is obviously yes. Let's talk about the legal aspects from your perspective.
You know, with regard to Susan Rice, Sean, I was saying the legal thing. I would look at the conspiracy statute under the Espionage Act, 793F, because it makes it a felony if you conspire with someone. So the fact that she did not possibly do the actual release, she did the unmasking, but she did not put in place, so to speak, she didn't release the, leak the information to the press and elsewhere. That's not the end of the story. The question is, number one, but for Susan Rice's actions, these leaks would not have happened. That's number one. Number two, did individuals she speak with or have contact with or dealt with, did they put in place a series of events that led to the leaking and that Susan Rice was fully aware of? So I would start looking at the Espionage Act, the conspiracy. Of course, you know, leaking confidential information is a felony as well. But this is the typical situation a prosecutor would look at and say, is there a conspiracy of multiple people engaged in action which resulted in the crime? Each individual person could have had their share of it. They didn't have to do all of it to be guilty of a conspiracy.
Where is the FBI director? Remember, he did confirm they were looking into other issues, but when directly confronted about the leaking in this issue, he wouldn't confirm or deny anything. I mean, in my opinion, shouldn't a grand jury be convened by now? And certainly a lot of these people now need to be brought before the House and Senate Intelligence Committees and put under oath?
Well, I hope the grand jury's already impaneled, number one. I don't know that, but I would hope that's the case. So that's clear that a grand jury should be impaneled, and the FBI should do a real investigation. Look, James Comey engages in selective disclosure of his activities. I mean, that's clear. He has politicized the FBI. So I think it's great that the committees, the intelligence committees, do their job. which is to investigate this. I suspect that Susan Rice, you can already hear it, she may take the privileges, the Fifth Amendment, executive privilege. She's going to try to do that. She's not going to want to talk about this.
Well, Evelyn Farkas is another one. She's going to definitely be brought before those committees, in my opinion. I would be shocked if she wasn't. All right, Sarah, because you've been sort of leading the way nationally on the investigative side of all of this, where do you see this going next? Is it deeper than just unmasking the Trump people? Like, for example, we had the Obama administration using the IRS to go after conservatives. Is there more to this story, do you think, that's going to unfold here?
I actually do, Sean, and I think this goes right down to the civil liberties of Americans. I think that's why this is such an important topic and a reason why the House and Senate need to investigate. And remember, Director Comey is investigating the Russian hacking of the U.S. election, and that encompasses everything else. And a lot of those FISA intercepts with Michael Flynn came from that side. But if we look at what happened with Susan Rice, I certainly think we need to know what she was looking at, why she was looking at it, and she's not in charge of any investigation, Sean. That is not her purview. That is not her job. She is more of a managerial person, the National Security Advisor. So why was she looking at this, and why was she requesting all these unmaskings?
And by the way, we'll know if she asked for unmasking in other situations because of the way they record that, right?
Right. Right, the log.
Absolutely. We will know exactly from that log how many times she requested unmasking. Is it common? From what I have been told from my sources,
it's not.
It is very uncommon for the NSA, for the National Security Advisor, to request these enormous amounts of unmaskings.
This is becoming, I think, one of the biggest political scandals in the history of this country. And the fact that the media is ignoring it is any credibility that maybe they had after being discovered having colluded with Hillary in the last campaign will be totally shot and gone here. I thank both of you for being fair and keeping your foot on the gas and unfolding, you know, one layer of an onion at a time here. But it seems to be a very clear picture. The weaponization and politicalization of our intelligence community, which is a danger for every single American. So thank you both for what you're doing.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, up next tonight, right here on this busy Hannity.
Well, you know, it certainly is a theory in search of a villain, and for whatever reason, the hard right has always chosen Susan Rice to be their villain.
All right, Congressman Adam Schiff, the ranking member on the House Intel Committee, he is openly defending Susan Rice. Pretty unbelievable. She lied again. Monica Crowley, Bill Bennett, they'll join us next to weigh in on that lunacy. Also later tonight, President Trump said Susan Rice may have committed a crime. We'll ask Dr. Sebastian Gorka about that and reaction from much more straight ahead.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Jackie Ibanez in New York. The intelligence reports at the center of the unmasking controversy were detailed and almost resembled a private investigator's file. That's according to a Republican familiar with the documents. Former National Security Advisor Susan Rice is accused of seeking to unmask the identities of Trump associates caught up in surveillance. Rice denies ever such information, seeking such information for political purposes, and defends her request as routine. Outrage growing around the world tonight in the wake of yesterday's deadly chemical attack in Syria. Nikki Haley, U.S. ambassador to the UN, offering up blistering criticism of President Bashar Assad's government. Haley warning that the Trump administration will take action if the UN Security Council fails to. It comes after the death toll from Tuesday's horrific attack in northern Syria rises to 75. I'm Jackie Ibanez. Now back to Hannity.
And welcome back to Hannity. So the left went nuts after the House Intel Committee Chairman, Devin Nunes, did his job by revealing that the Trump transition team was in fact surveilled. But we have explosive tape of the ranking Democrat on that committee, Congressman Adam Schiff, openly showing his bias. Now tonight we are asking, should Schiff recuse himself from the Russia investigation? And that's tonight's mini monologue. All right, so as we explained earlier tonight, the alt-left propaganda destroy Trump media. They are doing their best to smear and slander and besmirch Congressman Devin Nunes. Now, it is Congressman Adam Schiff who is openly showing bias in this case. Listen to what he said last night defending Susan Rice.
Well, you know, it certainly is a theory in search of a villain, and for whatever reason, the hard right has always chosen Susan Rice to be their villain. I think you heard some snippets about that today. I was dragooned in the service on the Benghazi Select Committee for 2 years. That committee's purpose was to take down Hillary Clinton's numbers. But one of the central figures the Republicans went after and after and after was Susan Rice. And after 2 years, they could find nothing that Susan Rice did wrong. In fact, the only thing Susan Rice did was go on Sunday morning shows and repeat what the Intelligence Committee best assessment of the early hours of Benghazi was. That was consistent with what we were hearing, what Susan Rice was hearing, and that's all they could find, which was perfectly appropriate on her part. So what it is they have about Susan Rice that they like to go after her, I don't know.
Republicans made her into a villain. Excuse me, Susan Rice did lie about the unmasking 2 weeks ago on PBS. She said she knew nothing about it, and then yesterday she admitted she knew everything about it. And she also lied back in 2012 on the 5 Sunday shows after the Benghazi terror attack. There's no need for Republicans to have to paint her as anything. She's a known liar. But instead of focusing on Rice's outright lies about the Trump surveillance, Schiff is now changing the subject. Now, maybe it's time for him, Adam Schiff, to recuse himself from this Russia investigation. So tonight we asked Congressman Schiff to be a guest on this program. He hasn't responded yet. Shocking. Here with reaction, conservative commentator Monica Crowley and Fox News contributor, the host of the Bill Bennett podcast, Bill Bennett. Monica, it seems like he already made his conclusion.
Well, don't you think it's curious, Sean, that Chairman Nunes saw the documents on March 22nd. He then went to brief the Republican leadership, including Speaker Ryan and so on. We didn't get any leaks from him on this. The first time we got a leak about Susan Rice or about any of this came this Monday in the initial Bloomberg report, right? What happened in the interim? Oh, that's right. Adam Schiff got briefed on the documents the Friday before. Then whammo. You know why? Because when he saw what was in those documents, and we don't know, but he obviously saw something serious enough to basically silence him. He went to Nancy Pelosi and said, I saw something here. Now, again, we don't know what it was, but he ran to his leader in the House, and then, boom, you get the leak about Susan Rice. That is not a coincidence here. Adam Schiff has some serious issues. He knows that the Democrats have some serious issues.
No, he's too partisan.
He's been calling for recusals, right, on the part of the Republicans.
No, it's time for him to go. Bill Bennett, thoughts?
Yeah, well, I don't know if he goes, he's going to be replaced by Jim Himes or Jackie Speier or Castro. Not partisans, they'll be partisans. By the way, one person who may have to recuse himself, I don't know if you heard this afternoon, Dustin Johnson fell down a flight of stairs. #1 seed for the Masters. Anyway, that aside.
Okay.
Look, on a serious point, I know you follow this stuff like I do.
I do.
On a serious
I'm sorry about that, by the way. Yeah.
I mean, we are too. He started boiling this water, Schiff, and now the water's getting hot, and he's in the pot. I see no reason to take him out of the pot.
So you want to keep him in there?
Right? He's gone. Yeah, you bet. He's gone dark and he's gone silent. I want to see, as this evidence mounts, as I think it will, his embarrassment.
Well, we know that she lied about Benghazi. What he said is just false. The initial narrative, they knew within minutes and hours that it was a terrorist attack. And she said that Sunday that this was a spontaneous demonstration. With all due respect, I don't know spontaneous demonstrators that just happen to carry in their back pocket mortars and RPGs. So that never made sense, Dr. Bennett.
It's lies, it's misrepresentations. But look at the total self-destruction of the media here during the Trump campaign and then now. I could not believe CNN, you've played a lot of it, saying, there's Fox over there. Don't look at Fox. No matter what you do, don't look at Fox. It's unbelievable what's happening. But the next person up will do the same thing. I think as the facts come forward, Sean, he should be grilled, he should be interviewed. If he recuses himself, he disappears. Don't let him disappear. Keep him in the spotlight. I have confidence that we are right on this one.
Yeah, and I agree with Bill on this. And look, there's a reason why Congressman Schiff is out there trying to deflect from the real story. What I'm hearing is that this case is moving toward a special counsel on a Watergate level scale. And the reason is because the congressional investigators can't get to the actual intelligence documents. The intelligence community, the agencies have locked the door on the investigators in terms of getting to the bottom of all of this. The FBI, which is also also running a parallel investigation also may in fact be compromised. They may be involved in this matter. Why? Because Director Comey came out and said that they have been investigating the Trump campaign and the Trump folks since July. Well, they can't be running an investigation without surveillance, right? So the FBI may in fact be caught up in this matter as well.
So we have
Meaning
an
that the Republicans may in fact suggest the idea of a special counsel. Everybody hates the idea, and it's a terrible solution, but it may in fact be the only one.
Well, listen to what you're saying, that our intelligence community has been weaponized and politicized, and the FBI too? I agree with you.
It may very. We don't have the answers. These are early days, but it seems as if the movement, and this will be a Republican decision, or at least a Republican encouragement toward a special counsel, because the two investigative bodies right now, Congress and the FBI, may not be able to get to the story and to the truth of what's going on.
All right, we have 15 seconds. Bill Bennett, you got the last word, sir.
Yeah, Justice Brandeis said sunlight is the best disinfectant. More sunlight. Thank God that we have a Republican president, Senate, and House. Courage is Devin Nunes' strong suit. Let's see it in Senator Burr as well. We'll get to the bottom of this if we put the right light on this.
If we put the light on it, I say people will be going to jail. Thank you both for being with us.
Yeah,
and up next,
scary. Yeah.
Susan Rice blatantly lied to you, the American people, 2 weeks ago by saying she had no knowledge, none of the unmasking of Trump transition team members. Up next, Dr. Sebastian Gorka debunks that lie. And then later, where's President Obama? Why isn't he going out there defending Susan Rice? Michelle Fields, Lisa Booth, they weigh in as well tonight on Hannity.
By asking about the allegations leveled today by House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes that Trump transition officials, including the president, may have been swept up in surveillance of foreigners at the end of the Obama administration.
I know nothing about this. I was surprised to see reports from Chairman Nunes on that count today.
All right, that was Susan Rice only 2 weeks ago when she told PBS she knew nothing about the surveillance of the Trump transition team and members and the president-elect. Now, in a shocking turn of events, multiple sources now confirming that Susan Rice did know about the surveillance and was, in fact, responsible for the unmasking of Trump officials. Earlier today, when asked by the New York Times if he thought Susan Rice had committed a crime, the president responded, quote, "Do I think? Yes, I think." Joining us now with reaction, Deputy Assistant to the President, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. All right, you know a thing or two about intelligence, but you also know a thing or two about if somebody 2 weeks ago, I don't know anything about this, and then it's revealed she is doing the unmasking, she's got herself a huge credibility problem. But beyond that, what is she saying here by admitting unmasking?
Well, I think, Sean, you've accurately identified how the story is falling apart. If you compare what she said 2 weeks ago, if you compare just the difference in her statements in the last 36 hours, there's clearly something that is not being openly discussed or disclosed here. If you follow the discussions, the writings of people like Andy McCartney and others, there's the whole issue of FISA without FISA. So the potential for politically motivated use of the intelligence community to spy on individuals without the adequate warrants being obtained or the adequate permissions being followed, and simply using the authority she had as National Security Advisor to unmask individuals, and then add to it 8 days before the inauguration saying we're going to just be able to share this incredibly sensitive signals intelligence intercepts with thousands of more people across government. You put all these pieces together and you see it's not just smoke, there's actually flames behind the smoke.
What you are describing is the weaponizing, if you will, the politicizing of our intelligence agencies and it would have to have been done by the top people. Now, as you know, I have deep respect for those in intelligence. They put their lives on the line for us regularly. Their job is imperative in a world that has this much evil in it. But if you're going to use raw intelligence and unmask people that are political opponents, I mean, to me, this sounds like the beginning of a police state. Am I overstating that?
Look, it's at least a banana republic. The weaponization of the security services is what you expect in a banana republic and a police state or an authoritarian state. And let's look at one more piece of evidence. These individuals are politically appointed. I'm politically appointed. I serve as a commissioned officer of the president. So did she. So we understand that. But you're supposed to be a professional. I challenge your viewers right now to go to her Twitter feed and read her tweets after January the 20th and read her colleagues, Ben Rhodes and Colin Kahl, K-A-H-L. You will see who these people really are. The mask was taken off. Just 3 weekends ago, Colin Kahl used the word purge with regards to people like myself and Steve Bannon and the other people in the White House who they think should not be there. Purging is the kind of word that Maoists use. That's the kind of word that was used to get rid of people you politically disagree with, perhaps even in violent ways. So these people have unmasked themselves, Sean.
But Dr. Gorka, it should be the type of thing, as I understand, to even have access to this information, this process of unmasking, that it is in a secure area, that you are escorted in, that every single bit of raw intelligence that you are looking at should be recorded. All of this should be available to the American people. Why is it not being released in the sense that we know, did she only ask for the unmasking of either candidate Trump, President-elect Trump, the transition team, members of his cabinet? Did they only ask in this case, which would prove it's all politicized and weaponized?
Look, the president has been explicit here, Sean. We're going to allow the mandated authorities, the congressional committees, to do their work. We're not going to do witch hunts. That's what the left, radical, progressive political elite does with their enemies. So we're going to let the system deal with this as it should. But again, your guest, I listened to your radio show as I was coming in to the show today. You had a former operative talk about how it's not rocket science to engineer a network analysis of telephone calls, who's calling who. And if you want to attack me or Steve Bannon or Steve Miller or Kellyanne Conway, you say, oh, they regularly call their nephew in Canada. Well, that's a foreigner. Well, I don't need the same kind of intelligence authorities to intercept a foreign call. And then you start to find the way to unmask all of these conversations so that you can make political profit. That's a very, very tenable theory, and that's the kind of thing we have to find out if it was really happening, because if that's the case, that is weaponizing intelligence for political purposes against your other party.
And by its very definition, sir, you are describing something that is beyond Watergate on steroids and human growth hormone.
Oh,
correct?
Well, losing 14 minutes of audio tape in comparison to this is a little spat in the sandbox in the kindergarten, Sean.
Wow. Wow. All right. Thank you, Dr. Gorka. And where is the mainstream media? Now, coming up, where's President Obama? Why isn't he putting out a statement defending Susan Rice? This controversy is not going away. What did he know? When did he know it? Up next, we'll get reaction from Michelle Fields, Lisa Booth, as Hannity continues. Welcome back to Hannity. So Susan Rice is once again in hot water. Now, nothing new for the former Obama National Security Advisor, who became infamous in 2012 for blatantly lying about the Benghazi attacks on 5 Sunday morning shows. Now that one of his top officials is once again fending off claims of impropriety, where's President Obama? Why isn't he defending his former National Security Advisor? Now, we recently actually reached out to former President Obama to join us on this program, but surprise, surprise, he declined the invitation. Joining us with reaction, Fox News contributor Lisa Booth and conservative author, commentator Michelle Fields. All right, Michelle, I get that Obama's not going to comment on it. I understand. But from the perspective of what Susan Rice said 2 weeks ago, knowing she lied on those 5 Sunday shows, why would anyone take anything she's saying at this point seriously?
Well, yes, look, it's very suspicious that she went on PBS and said that the unmasking never happened. And it's also suspicious the leaking of the Trump official names that were unmasked. However, there's no one that's suggesting, other than the president, that what she did was illegal. It is not illegal as of yet. I think that right now we don't have all of the information that we need. And so I think that's why he's probably not coming out there. And Obama's probably enjoying his time retiring. I mean, he's out on the beach vacationing. He doesn't want to get involved in this.
Well, Sarah Carter did point out they did relax these rules as it as it relates to unmasking back in 2011. So that, I think Susan Rice was actually fairly clever in what she said, Lisa, when she said, oh, yeah, I unmasked them, but I didn't leak the information. So, go ahead.
Yeah, and Sean, I think that context is really important, that the President Obama and the Obama administration did change those rules so that information could be more widely and easily disseminated across the government. But Sean, it is a big problem if the Obama administration essentially weaponized U.S. intelligence to spy on a political opponent, and that's what this seems to be shaping up here. And if that's in fact what happened, we have big problems on our hand here. And this is an administration that has problems with the truth. Susan, it's not just suspicious. Susan Rice has already discredited herself in a matter of weeks, just since March 22nd. Alone, this is an administration that also lied about the
Iran deal. But this is a serious charge.
As well.
What you're suggesting is a serious charge.
No, it's not. She did. Hold on,
it's
Michelle.
It's a serious charge if you're saying that President Obama was spying on Trump.
She already.
Hang on. Whoa. I love you both. One at a time. All right, Michelle, you want to respond? Go ahead.
Well, look, I think that is a serious charge. We're not saying, she's suggesting that President Obama was spying on a political opponent. What was happening was lawful surveillance of foreign